case I say anything that I want to clip later. Oh, no, we are on YouTube. We're there now. Okay, we were talking Iran, yes? Where were we?
War Powers Act.
Oh, right. Okay. So as far as war powers and all that go, my understanding, which again is just my understanding, is that this is the situation for which it exists, which is the president has 3 months, essentially 90 days, I believe is what it says, to wage some sort of conflict, low intensity and over and not with limited missions, essentially. Not that the law limits those what the missions can be, but that the time limit limits them. You can't do a big ground invasion without exceeding that. But short of that, you could do a campaign that's shorter than 90 days. And to be fair, it was allowed to be launched whenever they felt like, which gave them the kind of surprise that allowed them to, in this case, it was Israel that killed the Ayatollah Khamenei. Um, so when you look at it, that's exactly why the law is written the way it is, and as long as the president wraps up his, which he's everything he's indicated says he'd said a week, maybe a couple at most. That's well within the 90 days, and if he ceases combat operations within 90 days, it seems like I don't understand why anyone's saying it's an illegal war. I don't think the war could be illegal until he's exceeded his authority under the War Powers Act, which until it's 90 days, which we're only at day 2, he hasn't yet done. So it's not illegal. That's the first of all. Now, if he wants it to be more than 3 months, he must absolutely get an authorization for the use of military force or an AUMF from Congress, like Bush ended up having to do and doing in in different instances in the early 2000s. Sure, yes.
As a Jew,
Yeah.
is it morally important for me to understand the motivation of my government in entering this war? If the motivation is riches for Trump and his family with some of the other players in the Mideast, or the motivation is to distract us from the Epstein files, is it important to recognize that maybe his motivation is not the same as my motivation or your motivation to have a secure Israel? Or, do we just ignore the fact we have an asshole in the White House?
I don't know if we don't ignore Trump's nature. You asked, is it morally important that you understand the motivations? I would say it is important for us to think about and understand the government's motivations and their methods when we wage war. It's always important for citizens in a democracy to understand those things. If the reasons were either of the two nefarious ones you shared, either personal enrichment, or the other one was
Epstein.
Epstein,
you can't forget him.
I can easily forget him because he was, besides him being a personal, terrible human being.
He's Jewish.
Okay, great. We want to point that out, but I'd rather talk about Jack and Quinn Hughes being Jewish, if you don't mind, rather than Jeffrey Epstein, someone who, by the way, hated Israel and only ever worked against it. So I'm not sure he's the world's greatest Jew, in any world or imagination.
In the book club, there was a suggestion he was part of a Jewish Kabbalah that Mossad was working hand in hand with Epstein. Can you remember?
That's insane and super anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Really anti-Semitic.
Mossad.
Yeah, no, he didn't work for the Mossad because he worked against Israel, and usually Mossad agents work for Israel, not against it. Right. It's the same thing when you guys asked me before, did Bibi have anything to do with Epstein? And I said, no, because Epstein was best friends with Barack to try and get rid of Netanyahu. He wasn't about to be best buddies with the guy he strongly opposed. Um, but as far as Epstein being, first of all, again, I remind you that anyone who's selling you the idea of some kind of giant mass influence pedophile conspiracy with Jeffrey Epstein, they're lying to you intentionally, and you're being lied to, and you should be upset about that rather than being upset about Epstein, which there's nothing to be upset about beyond the fact that, I mean, you could be upset about him, but he's dead now, so your upsetness at him will only be so muted. You can be upset at Ghislaine Maxwell. She's in prison. She's likely to remain there for being his assistant. The fact that he trafficked young women to himself is very bad, but he really only trafficked them to himself. He didn't facilitate some massive influence web. He certainly didn't work for the CIA or Mossad, and anyone telling you otherwise is just trying to rile you up for a political purpose, probably. So don't let that happen to yourself.
I don't want to distract you from what
I'm
really
trying to say is that he's not trying to distract you.
Where are we being led?
Got it.
And
Okay.
who is leading us? And does that cause you concern?
Okay. What I was trying to get to, and I'll get back to it, with both things, with either personal enrichment or distraction from Epstein, I don't think either of those are the motivation of the government. Now, I think I know what the motivation is, and I agree with you that it's not the moral argument, right? I'm not arguing that they're like, we're for freedom and democracy, and we're avenging the protesters. That would be a great one, but they're not saying that. And it's not even really just they shouldn't have nukes, though they shouldn't. And it's not even really just they were working on ICBMs and they were using so many ballistic missiles, though they did, and they are, and they were. None of those are the real reason. The real reason appears to be a continuation of the game with China that Trump has been playing extremely aggressively since he came back into office. It involves neutering China's ability to distract the free world while it invades Taiwan. So China's plan had been that while they invade Taiwan, cartels in Mexico, and assisted by one of their leaders, the president of Venezuela, formerly Nicolas Maduro, would keep America occupied in the Caribbean and on our southern border, while Russia kept the Europeans and NATO busy, and while Iran kept the Gulf states and Israel busy, and kept America bogged down in all of these places at once in such a way that we would be unable to come to the rescue of Taiwan. That's what China wanted. That was the world they were setting up. That was the game field as it existed when Trump came into office. This is just something I've learned. This is part of what I learned even when I was at APAC last week. Right. So this is the game as it was when Trump came back into office. What has happened since? In addition to, since October 7th, first of all, the proxy network of Iran has been degraded, and Iran itself had been degraded. Iran was still manufacturing a lot of weapons for the Russians and selling a lot of oil to China. Venezuela also sold a lot of oil to China. Now, not selling oil to China, selling oil to Israel, right? The cartels are being dealt with too. You even saw this past week a big cartel killing. That is related to all this. We are neutering the cartels and the Venezuelan part of this alliance meant to hurt us. So we are neutralizing that area. We continue to support Ukraine so as to try and prevent Russia from breaking out in any way to engage NATO in a greater manner that would require our intervention, or even prevent us from using Germany and European bases to get to places on the other side of the world. We are now destroying Iran, and if we were able to replace Iran's government to make them pro-Western, again, I'm not saying he's going to say we have to have a democratic whatever. I'm not saying Trump is going for a democracy. I'm saying Trump is going for moving the political axis away from China and towards America.
Towards the West.
Right. He wants them to stop selling oil to China.
It's a very
And stop selling weapons to Russia. suicide drones. So do you see what I'm saying? That's what I believe to be the motivation here. It's geopolitics. It's realpolitik. None of it is, I'm not saying it's based in morals. And you can judge those geopolitical goals as immoral if you choose to. I do not, but you can choose to. But I'm just trying to give you the facts as I see it of the situation here, of what the world, what the game board looks like, and the pieces Trump is trying to take off the board, so that when the 2027 window, as they say, many analysts who are wrong about lots of things, but have said that China's window, so-called, to take Taiwan is closing, and may close around 2027 has long been seen as a X date for when they would try and when this war would come to pass. The idea is they may be able to prevent the war from happening if China feels it doesn't have the oil, doesn't have the game pieces, doesn't have the proxies, doesn't have the allies to fight and win that war.
Now, when you're doing geopolitics, is South Korea and Japan left out of that equation?
No, it's not that. It's just everyone's fighting in their own sphere, right? The Europeans are dealing with Russia, and everyone's helping us, but it's really us in every sphere. That's how the world is at the moment. It's our military being the difference maker in every one of these spheres. The question is, for China, can they keep us occupied, enough forces occupied in each of these other spheres to prevent us from having enough forces to help with Taiwan before they can cross?
They leave out the fact we have 13 carriers.
So that's my answer to your question, and it had to be a long one. But as I said, you should know the motivations of your government. But mine sound more reasonable to me than he's trying to get rich by building a hotel, which, cool, or he's trying to distract us from Epstein, which isn't real, which is what I was trying to say to you before. That's not a real thing that he's distracting us from, because he's not distracting us from it. The only people that are putting the attention on it are people who are just...
I use that. He's trying to distract on a number of...
He could be distracting from anything, I guess, but I don't think that's the motivation, because I'm trying to point out to you that this is consistent with the other actions he's taken since coming back into office in the realm of fighting this geopolitical war. He wants to be able to focus all of America's force and attention on the Pacific.
Then the Democrats who've been on television today are rolling in the dark.
Yes. Well, they have a political message they would like to further. They believe it will. I mean, look, it's a playbook that's worked for them before. So they're just going to run the same playbook back. That doesn't mean they're telling you the truth. That means they're telling you their perspective even. But from my perspective, yes, they're not being disloyal. They're being politically self-interested. They don't really care if Iran, who wins in Iran. I mean, they don't want any, God forbid, again, they don't, but there are people that are going on TV, Democrat and Republican, who are against the war for political reasons, not because they have a moral objection or something. They just don't want Iran to fall. They don't want America to.
I don't believe that at all.
Okay.
Some of...
Well, everyone has different motivations. They're not all the same.
Basically, what they're coming on and saying is, we have a constitution.
Yep.
Which has now almost lasted 250 years.
Yep.
If we, just turn our back on what is constitutional, what has been the way this country has proceeded in the past, or looked upon the fact that the people are entitled to an understanding before we go to war. If the understanding understanding is as you have presented, why wasn't I told that? Why weren't...
First of all, I don't think the US, I think the US would rather not share its strategies with China if they can avoid it. I think they have a good interest in not broadcasting every move they're going to make.
Well, it
Um,
can't be that much of a secret if you went to a conference and this is open discussion. You know, if this
It's not
is,
that it's a secret, it's just,
you know, I never heard that before. It makes some sense, but
why isn't the
So-
administration saying it, you're saying?
why aren't we told what the motivation is?
I agree with you. They should share that with the public. No. I agree with you. They absolutely should share that with the public. As the public has a right, and certainly now that they're in this window of this 90 days where they have latitude, they certainly have an obligation now and a need, if especially if they're going to exceed 90 days, to explain. I guess I am technically I don't believe anything that's been done is illegal. I think it's good to present your case for going to war. Although I think we have to understand there are wars and there are wars, right? Like there are different levels of war. World War II and Grenada weren't the same level of war. They were both invasions they both involved invasions, but they weren't the same kind of war. We know this. So this is a war, but it's not a war, it's not like the Iraq War, right? It's not like Afghanistan. It's not like Vietnam. It's not like Korea.
I suspect we will not put troops on the ground.
Right. That's the first big identifier.
That's politically poison for him.
Yes, no, he can't, he's not gonna
Is
do
there
that.
any wish that we could degrade Iran's capacity to help groups?
Of course, we're hoping to degrade their capacity in all areas, but certainly, obviously,
But
if there was a new government, it would not support the
the side
terrorists.
effect of this is that the price of oil will go up because.
Well, we'll see. Neither the Israelis nor the Americans are hitting the oil industry in Iran. Not their production, not their storage, none of it. Because again, the idea is if there's going to be a new country, if a new leadership is going to arise, they're going to need the infrastructure and the money from the oil to start building things and making things better for the Iranian people. But we're not trying to hit the oil industry because we don't want to hurt the Iranian people.
We will know it's a problem if Iran sinks Saudi Arabian oil ships.
Well, they are currently trying to do some of that.
Because that could really climb up the area.
Yeah, the EU has been, well, not unlimitedly disappointing. Trump says the US has sunk 9 Iranian ships and largely destroyed its Navy's HQ. Number of wounded in the Beit Shemesh strike being treated in hospitals rises to 50, by the way.
Is what?
50.
Okay.
That's the injuries.
Hardly a triage number.
Well, it is what it is. And 9 people died in that strike. But again, this is what war is, and that's very sad.
That's relatively limited, I think.
Well, I mean, look, at least it's better than if we didn't have all the air defense, all the missile defense systems.
Effective missile defense.
We have very effective.
It also shows clearly we have quite a good missile defense system.
Yep, they take down about 90% of the projectiles shot, which is better than we ever thought back in the 20 years ago that we'd be able to achieve.
But it didn't hit any of the carriers yet.
No, they can't they're not going to hit the carriers.
Well,
sorry, I don't want to say that to tempt fate. There are certainly missiles out there that could. I don't believe Iran currently has any. And I think while they could shoot at them, it's unlikely. Both their targeting is kind of weak and their
and the computer systems that give it accuracy are not
right. They're not extremely accurate, and we have pretty good defense to prevent it.
And this looks to me a parallel to Venezuela. Go in and get somebody and give them a strong warning and let the people make a decision.
I'm not sure it's the same as Venezuela because I think like Venezuela was really just we black bagged that guy and his wife and just took him away.
Sure.
And that was the end. We didn't like we were in and out in like
Right.
3 hours and it was
Right.
over. This is going to be a couple days. Like they're going to keep running. The B2s just did a big run. Just did a run.
Oh,
Like an hour or so ago. They must have taken off. 18 hours ago from
Missouri.
well, not from Missouri. They're up in North Dakota now.
Oh.
Montana. Sorry. Yeah, they're stationed up in Montana, but they flew from there and they're gonna, and then they're gonna come back. So it takes them like 12 hours, 18 hours to get over to the other side of the world. But they did their run and they'll probably do a couple more runs every 3 days. You'll see a thing that says the B2s struck somewhere. And why? Because they're moving everything underground. They're moving not just the nuclear stuff, the ballistic missile stuff. Everything's getting moved underground because they need to get it far enough that the Americans can't bunker bust it. That's what the goal is. And so this regime, the clock is up. They're getting to be too dangerous to be let to continue. We have a shot here, and the administration's taking it. They know they're not going to need more than 90 days, and that's why they didn't bother to ask for permission. You don't have to like that. I'm not telling you to like it. Harold specifically, I'm not telling you to like it. But what I'm saying is they're not going to break the law. They know they're going to work to not break the law here, I think.
Disagree with,
Sure.
killing that monster.
Yeah, no, I think most people agree with doing that part.
I'm wondering whether there's been any assessment in Israel what the consequences are going to be to the people who live in Israel.
So the people in Israel, first of all, are extremely with this. They're ready for this. To be fair, Israel knows that the war it's been fighting over the last 20 years hasn't really been with Hamas. It's really been with Iran the whole time. And Israelis have internalized this. So they know that Iran is the true, really the head of the snake. And
what would be a good ending for this conflict for the Israelis?
Regime change.
Right.
Okay, so you're talking, well, of course, you've got two regimes. You've got a theocratic and a political.
Well, no, the political answers to the theocratic, so it's really just the one.
Yeah.
If it's brought down, a new political regime would come into effect,
Alright.
which would hopefully be a Democrat or whatever it would be. It would be a new regime. It could be democratic, it could be monarchic, it could be whatever it
Okay,
is.
but it won't be run by.
But it won't be a theocracy run by the mullahs and the ayatollahs. No, is the idea. Currently, of course, the current regime seeks to continue its existence, and they've established already, weak as they are, that even survival is success for them. In other words, they can hope to achieve no other goal in this war other than survival. They can't really hurt any of America's allies or America. They've basically admitted that. The best they can do is lob missiles at Dubai, hoping that the Emiratis are so weak and scared that they'll say, "Oh no, Trump, please end the war because we're scared and the hotels are getting hit by." That's what they're hoping. I actually think the Emiratis are made of sterner stuff than that. And they're just going to be pissed, and they're going to actually say, we have F-35s too, and we're going to. We might join the war against you.
Dubai Airport, which is a big.
The Dubai airport got hit. Hotels in Bahrain and Dubai have been hit. A base in Abu Dhabi. I mean, they're launching at all of America's, which they promised they would do. Is Israel and all of America's allies in the Middle East? They would launch missiles at. And to be fair, we're trying to protect them. We are blowing a lot of these things up before they reach. The problem, especially for Bahrain and the UAE, but even Bahrain the most, is it's so close to Iran. If you look at the map, you guys know the basic map of the Middle East when you think about it. So Bahrain is one of those islands next to Qatar. It's its own little oil nation that has like 6 people who are citizens. Anyway, but it's part of the Abraham Accords. It has a relationship with Israel. And because of that, they are so close that it's hard to get we get a satellite ping every time a missile is launched. Because the AI can see is looking for the telltale ignition point of a ballistic missile launch. And when it sees that somewhere on the map, a big box and tells everyone, hey, it tells our air forces in the air, America's and Israel's, and the allied nations that are working with us, Jordan, Saudis, stuff like that. Hey, there's a missile coming. But if it's far enough, then we can get to it. Bahrain and the UAE are very close. So and the East Coast, the East Coast, sorry, of Saudi Arabia. So anything that's shot there is going to be a lot harder to get to before it lands because it's so close. The launch point and the reception point. So those are hitting more than the further ones, like towards other parts of Saudi Arabia or Israel or Jordan, where they've got a lot of land. It's got to cover all of Iraq and stuff before it gets to anybody. Right, which gives them enough time that a jet can be redirected to knock it out of the sky.
We obviously have heat-seeking ballistic missiles. Wouldn't that gradually knock out all of their batteries? Because you can't launch.
Well, so we are constantly trying to blow up. As we see that, we identify where the launchers were, and we go and we blow up the ballistic missile launchers and any stockpiles we can. We've been trying to do that as we've started the war. We have full air supremacy now.
Sure.
We're trying to do that, but as with the last war, so they keep, first of all of their ballistic missiles are hidden underground, so they're not easy to locate just from the satellite. And the launchers are all mobile, so they're on trucks. So they're also not that easy to find. And if they're just going around, you could just put something over the back. It looks like a box truck. How can you tell it apart from other? Then they take the thing off, and it's not a big thing for people to sit in. It's a launcher platform, and it raises up, and then you can put a missile on it and shoot it. And that works well for them, but it means we don't know where that we hit what we know where it is, and when they shoot new ones, we try.
And he says it could take a couple of weeks,
right? Because they have to reveal more stuff so that we can hit more stuff, and the more they reveal, the more we hit. And therefore, hopefully they only get off a couple missiles from each of these launcher platforms. If they run out of launchers, it doesn't matter how many missiles they have.
Presumably,
if they lose the capability to launch them at
presumably, Mossad and the CIA know who the key mullahs are that we need to take out to not have that government.
I don't know what the CIA and Mossad know. They don't talk to me.
Oh, they don't.
They're not. We're not great close. Oh well, they're He's kidding, NSA. Nobody hears from them. I'm just joking, kind of. We're on YouTube anyway. It doesn't matter. We're right. It's in public. It's like someone complaining about being yelling on a street corner and then saying, "Why were you overhearing me?" It's like, my guy, where were you? What are you doing? Okay, but no, I mean, look. I don't know what they know. I assume they've taken out already. All the top people are dead. It's all second-ranked people at this point, essentially. The only top-ranked person left is Ali Larijani, who is the head of their National Security Council.
And the president.
And their president, but their president again is I mean, he has some authority, but he's I'm not saying they aren't going to try and kill him. I'm just saying I think they'd rather if they had to pick of the two, I think they'd rather have Larijani. Because he's actually in charge of doing missile stuff, doing national defense stuff as well, maybe more so.
I have to smile at myself, Rabbi. I had never considered the geopolitical scenario you presented, and that's gripping.
American grand strategy.
Yeah, I have difficulty granting Trump the intelligence to see that. But he's got advisors.
He's not the one who put it together, for the record.
Yeah, sure.
Somebody came to him who he liked and said, "This is what I think is happening, and this is what I think you should do to counter what they're doing." And he said, "Yeah, that sounds good."
Yeah.
And then they did it. Somebody else did it. So he just had to give it a stamp. Which, I mean, he'll get the credit for giving the stamp, but he didn't. I'm not saying it's his plan. You know what I mean? I'm just saying it's our plan. Because he approved it.
All his advisors were trumpeting, pardon the pun, America first.
Okay.
So when did they change their mind?
Is this not America first? I would argue this is America first.
Well,
Against China.
not according
Yeah,
to the 18.
Because in the end, right, in the end, the 21st century can be won by either America or China. You either want America to win and then you're America first, or you want China to win and then you're China first. Or whatever, America last is usually what I end up calling them. Third worldists is another one that's getting big. But there are people who want the authoritarian nations of the world to win, led by China and used to be said China and Russia, but I think we all recognize now Russia is the secondary, very junior partner in this. The only one that has any real force, which to be fair, we're not even sure they do because they haven't fought a war since in like 50 years, is China. So if you want America to win 21st century, you're America first.
Right.
I want America to win the 21st century, and to do that, we have to take some of China's pawns off the board, and some of their lieutenants too. This is taking a rook off the board. It's a real help. It's important to take. We took a rook off the board when we took, or a castle or whatever, when we took Maduro off the board. It's important sometimes to take these pieces off the board for your own national security. And that doesn't make you not America first. So I would say this is something that someone who supports American interests in the 21st century should support.
I also hope this may be just a small piece and it wasn't the reasoning, but taking Iran out may take out a lot of the drones that were going attacking Ukraine from Russia.
Because Iran,
Right, and that again is not an insignificant right. The top it is, yeah, the number one suicide drone in the world. Sorry, we're calling them now since we use them now. This is the first conflict in which the United States military used its essentially copy of the Shahed of the Iranian drone that we made, which is just again a copy on theirs. And they were using them and we were using them, and someone joked that it was like they were passing each other in the anyway.
Russia's copied it also.
Sure, but Russia didn't copy it. They just buy them from Iran.
They have two big factories manufacturing those drones in Russia.
No, but I know Iran is making them for them. Yeah.
Well, I may not have understood what they were presenting this morning, but they were saying that Russia is self-sufficient in producing drones.
Okay. If Russia has managed to become self-sufficient in producing drones, that only makes Iran's stockpile higher, but they have been supplying and continue to supply. I know they continue to supply Russia with Shahed drones, which are the leading military suicide drone on the planet. So, I mean, this is part of their role as an ally to Russia, is to provide these things. Although Russia may have chosen to move towards self-sufficiency in drones because they were, who knows, maybe they were tipped off by someone in the administration that Iran wasn't going to be producing them for much longer. And they might need their own contact. In any event, authoritarian regimes will be weakened by the inability to, if they have the inability to procure suicide drones from Iran.
When I ask the term suicide drones, none of these contain humans. Drones are not.
Yeah, they mean like kamikaze, right? They mean like the fact that the drones. So drones, as it usually is, the drones we use up until this, drones were not like flying bombs or even loitering munitions. We didn't really use those so much. Drones were surveillance platforms and bombing platforms, but they were meant to come back and land, to be reusable platforms.
This is the drone
Right.
that goes into the
Iran essentially invented something cheap enough, but still effective enough with good enough the right balance for it to be cheap enough for militaries to buy thousands and thousands of them, but effective enough for them to be, each one to be useful in killing a target or accomplishing some
but it gets
mission.
destroyed.
Right, but it blows up. So it's a single use thing. So America now calls theirs one-way drones.
One way would be because suicide usually implied a human that was.
I understand, but right. So the suicide in the sense that the drone blows itself up. In any event, these nations will be unable to procure these drones from Iran if Iran switches sides. And also China would have depended on some of those as well. It's worth noting that Iran, just like Venezuela, was using China's new stealth detecting radar.
Yeah.
Which only proves don't buy anything from Temu. Because it won't work. Chinese stuff didn't work. This is the thing. China hasn't tested any of its stuff in war. This is why I mentioned they haven't fought. So China has a lot of stuff, a lot of military equipment, ships and plane that they say is cool on paper.
But we don't
We've
know.
never seen them fight, so we don't know. They could be. I'm not saying they're not, but these radars didn't work. That's for sure.
I
They
know.
didn't work in Venezuela and they didn't work in Iran.
I
The
know.
Russian S-300, S-400, S-500 missile defense system doesn't work. Doesn't stop our stuff anyway. It might stop theirs if they tested their stuff on it. It doesn't stop ours. So
China has an electric car that's better than Tesla.
no, they don't.
Yes, they
No,
do.
they don't. Once
You'd
again,
have the Chinese electric car if you could.
no, I wouldn't.
It-
First of all, I wouldn't because it would spy on me. Second of all, the security on those things is terrible. Every day there's a story about a guy who managed to use a use one computer
They
to
have
access
to
12,000 cameras on all the robots in China, all the robot vacuums that the Chinese company made, or all the cars that this company made. That's the second reason. And the third reason is,
electric car that can go 350 miles.
what do you, mine can go 400.
No, it can't.
Yeah, it can.
And the other
But
thing is,
they actually have ones that say they can go farther. But that's not the point because their batteries break down after 1,000 miles because their technology is a mile wide and an inch deep. It's all based on stuff they stole from us. And you know what the problem with that is?
It's-
They don't understand it,
Every
Harold.
one of
And
the-
they make something that seems technically prowess. No, seriously, buy one of their terrible TVs from Hisense or not or TCL from Costco. It'll say it has a better resolution than the Samsung or the LG or the Sony. It'll say it has a better resolution and better frame rate and everything. And you watch it and say, why does it look worse than the Sony, even though it has better stats? And the reason is because they don't know how to make it all talk to each other. They just throw whatever component they can get their slave laborers to throw in
I'm
to
sorry.
make it seem good.
You bought a car from a guy who would rather party on Epstein's Island.
Yeah, he would have liked to. And guess what? So would have you in 1999. Nobody knew what he did. I mean, this is crazy. If I was trying to start a business, I wouldn't want to see a billionaire who invests in businesses. You're being crazy. You're being crazy. Come on. This is insanity. Before you knew he did anything, I imagine being like, I'm starting a business today. I could ask Lauren for money. No, I'm not going to use Lauren because I'm about to say something bad. Sorry, forget that. Scratch that. I could have asked Plony for money, but I won't. Because 16 years from now, it could turn out that he was a pedophile. Like, it's like, what the, like, how can you do that? How can you judge people ex post facto that way? How can you judge them after the fact?
You're driving an immoral car.
No, I'm not. I'm driving a car.
yeah,
There's no such thing as an immoral car, except for maybe a Mercedes, but I'm not driving that. By the way, you drive a BMW.
I'd rather have them working for me than killing me.
yeah, but that means
Well, I can't feel that way about Elon. He works for me then, if that's the business we're going with. At least my car's made by Americans in America. Right, technically, it's made by robots in America, but still in America. I'm perfectly happy having an American car that also has great performance. I'm very happy with it, and it drives itself. What's not to like?
And particularly the new ones.
Yeah, they drive themselves. It's a great thing. Everyone loves it.
I want to jump back half an hour to something.
Yeah, what's up? What did I do?
Anti-Semitism has always had at its basis, we're Christ killers, the blood libel, we control the media and we control finances.
True.
Now they've added we're pedophiles. I mean,
Oh yeah, anything.
Black.
They'll just say anything they can about us to make people hate us,
Yeah.
and people will just do it. They'll just go along with it because it suits their other political needs.
What
That's the
about-
thing about anti-Semitism. It can always help, it can always be adapted to suit anyone's political views.
Let's get 5 minutes of Talmud so I can go to heaven.
Okay.
It's gonna take more than 5 minutes.
I was like, I don't even know where, let me see if I can find where we were even. I don't know.
Was I right when I said at book club, you gotta get angry at someone to make it easier to be,
Yes,
and that's how I read what was going on at that time.
yeah.
Objection
Yeah,
from Brian,
I agree.
I don't understand. Can't
It
find where we left
started
off.
out as gospel light and then became gospel heavy.
Yeah.
You guys having to leave your book club?
Yes, we direct them back to the right path from time to time.
It's the thing about them church clubs. They end up getting churchy eventually. But we've got a new 11 o'clock Wednesdays class here for anyone who wants to be here. I'll be here, and if we got people, we'll do Kohelet. Unless there's a war that starts on the day of, in which case I don't think it only happens on weekends. We always end up in the Sunday class doing war instead of
Because it keeps it out of the paper somewhere.
keeps it out of the markets. It's about the
You don't
markets
expect
being
it on
closed.
Shabbat.
Well, that too, I guess. We're happy, I guess, to do it on Shabbat. Okay, we're gonna talk about all right, this is fun. We'll do this. The Gemara cites additional proof with regard to the extent to which human dignity overrides mitzvot in the Torah. Tashma, come in here, as Rabbi Elazar ben Tzedek, the priest, said, I and my fellow priests would jump over coffins of the deceased in order to hurry toward kings of Israel to greet them. And they did not say this only towards kings of Israel, but they said this even towards kings of the nations of the world. So for all the Goyish nations too. So that if one will be privileged to witness the redemption of Israel, he will distinguish between kings of Israel and kings of the nations of the world. The priests violated the Torah prohibition to become ritually impure through contact with the dead in order to show respect for a king. That's what it's describing here, right? Because priests are not supposed to be in cemeteries hopping over dead bodies, but they're jumping right over them to get to be able to kiss the ring, to pay some respect to the king. When continuing, it says, there is neither wisdom nor understanding nor counsel against the Lord. The Gemara will respond to this challenge by saying that it must be understood in accordance with the opinion of Rava, as Rava said, by Torah law, a tent over a corpse, so long as there is a handbreadth of space between the corpse and the tent over it, constitutes a barrier before the spread of impurity. And nothing above the tent can become ritually impure due to the impurity imparted by the corpse. Right? As long as there's a gap. As long as it's not touching. If it's a tarp that's laying on a corpse and you touch the tarp that's on the corpse, you're still impure. But if it's suspended, even this much, then you're good. Is what the Gemara is offering here in terms of protecting oneself from ritual impurity.
Why the basis, Rabbi, of thinking that a corpse is impure? Because of the degeneration?
Yeah, the Torah says that dead bodies impart impurity. They're unclean. The Torah says so. So it's from the Torah.
I would have thought perhaps that the Torah would have attributed, but this was a human being. There is something of dignity about it. Don't see it as rotted or impure or it was a child of God.
No, it wasn't. I'm sorry, the soul is,
but not the body.
no. The
Okay,
body is a vessel and we treat it respectfully, but it has a process. First of all, it has to be cleaned,
right, right.
prepared for burial, which is called tahara. Or taharat mate, so the clean, the
True, and the
Um,
orifice is open.
and then, right, we do all that, and then we clothe them in specific clothing, which is respectful. And then we put them in the box, which again we'll get to, will have its handbreadth of space so that everyone can go to the funeral and whatnot.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. As far as impurity, again, I beg you to see that impurity is not a moral condemnation. When we say something is impure, it doesn't automatically mean that it imparts moral evil or represents moral evil, right?
Yeah.
Certain foods are impure, certain sex acts are impure, certain all kinds of things are impure. Not all of them, though some of them imply moral evil. So I would say you might be reading into this more than needs be read in.
Yeah.
That we're not trying to say ew, be not near it. We're trying to say Kohanes have a specific job to do. We believe they are specifically prohibited from being desecrated in this particular way. And so we have to take steps to avoid that. It's a practical measure for avoiding the practical impurity of death.
It has something to do with disease, because Leviticus spends a lot of time talking about lepers, and you don't want to touch them, and they happen to be correct.
Sure. Here it's going to say most coffins have a handbreadth of space. Consequently, their impunity does not spread above the coffin. However, the sages issued a decree regarding coffins in which there is a handbreadth of space because of those coffins in which there is not. Nevertheless, due to respect for kings, the sages did not issue a decree in a case involving them, and the priests were permitted to jump over the coffins, as it is permitted by Torah law. Therefore, there is no proof from here regarding the question of whether or not human dignity overrides Torah law. So they're saying we've now addressed what this is about, and it doesn't answer the question of human dignity and Torah law, because we're not. They're saying this isn't a matter of that. This is a matter of pure and impure, and respect due to kings. And we decided that by saying respect is due to kings, and as long as there is something covering, including a coffin, a priest can run by to greet a king. A priest could go to a funeral with a king. Maybe that would be necessary. Maybe this is a leniency, of the text.
But he could not to a friend's, to the funeral of a friend's parent.
Well, no, I mean, I guess he could in this case. If we're making a general rule that it doesn't impart impurity, then I guess he could.
It does, yeah. Okay.
If it's a general rule, that's something that they didn't write. And also it can't be one of the ones they used to do in those times for people who couldn't afford even a box. They would get a shroud. They would be in a bag essentially.
Right.
And that's fine, but the rabbis are like, that's not the same. If they're in a bag, that's not it's not giving the space necessary to avoid impurity. By the way, there is a little bit of natural truth to it. The impurity, while not morally evil, will get you sick if you hang out too long near a dead body.
And they're in a warm climate, and we didn't have embalming until
right. Hence why also burial would happen within hours often.
Yeah.
Because that's the kindness rather than you don't want to risk it going too long. That's for sure.
You just raised an issue for me. I've always thought it's against our tradition to embalm. Is that correct? That we shouldn't embalm?
Yes, traditionally we don't embalm. There are other techniques that are done as part of tahara, but it's not embalming. And you don't traditionally do that because we also don't do viewings.
Right.
We don't have a viewing and we don't have open casket funerals. We we have a specific dress for the person, but that's a dignity we do unto them. It's not for us to look at them in their it's not, we don't do it because, well, everyone's gonna look at him and we want to make sure he's in a good, that's not what it's about. It's a kiddo generally. It's like,
What is the rabbinic direction on cremation?
not to do it.
Not to do.
Mhm.
A human being should be returned to the earth whole, is the traditional understanding of Jewish burial.
And
Other people will make other decisions, and the reform movement will respect the decisions that people make, though we obviously have to make adjustments to things, services and whatnot, as much as we can based on what the family chooses.
was that the reason for the thought against embalming, that it retards or prevents return to the earth?
Yes, of course. Yes, we're not trying to
The
prevent
arrogance.
the body from decomposing. That's not what we're trying to do. That's why we bury so quickly. We're trying to let it happen at its natural course, and we just don't want it to happen up here. Okay. Just trying to see, is there? This is a good one. We'll do this and then we'll wrap up. Okay. So we're going to hear another one about this. So it says, Tashma, come in here. Great is human dignity. Kavod habriot, by the way, is what it is in Hebrew. Kavod, honor, habriot, of life. Like you say this, like health, like living things. Briot is like living things. So the kavod briot is respect for or honor for living things. In this case, translated as human dignity, as it overrides a prohibition in the Torah, right? Because it's hard for things to override prohibitions in the Torah. The Gemara asks why. Let us say here, this is where the actual proof text is useful. This text they used before. There's neither wisdom nor understanding nor counsel against the Lord. Rav Bar Shaba interpreted this prohibition, which is overridden by human dignity, before Rav Kahana as referring to the prohibition of not deviating to the left or to the right from Deuteronomy, where it said in Deuteronomy 17, according to the Torah taught to you and the ruling handed down to you, you shall not deviate to the left or the right from that which they tell you, from which Moses commanded. The yeshiva students laughed at him, as the prohibition of you shall not deviate is by Torah law, like all other Torah prohibitions. Why should human dignity override it any more than any other Torah prohibition? Rav Kahana replied to them, a great man has spoken. Do not laugh at him. The sages based all rabbinic law on the prohibition of you shall not deviate. However, due to concern for human dignity, the sages permitted suspension of rabbinic law in cases where the two collide. All rabbinic decrees are predicated on the mitzvah in the Torah to heed the judges in each generation and to never stray from their words. Therefore, when the sages suspend a decree in the interest of preserving human dignity is overriding a Torah prohibition. In any case, it only overrides rabbinic decrees. So what they're saying is, while we say it's overriding a Torah prohibition, what it's actually overriding is the Torah telling you have to listen to everything the sages say. But we're actually saying you don't always have to do everything the sages say, because we can override the words of the rabbis, the rabbinic decrees. So actually, human dignity doesn't override Torah law. It overrides rabbinic decrees. But it doesn't just override rabbinic decrees, because by overriding rabbinic decrees, it is overriding Torah law. Are we there? Did we all get there? That's why I had to finish through that section in order to give you the explanation, because it can be a little confusing. Okay? But human dignity can suspend laws in the Torah, rabbinic decrees, which is good. then we're gonna go talk about a lost object. So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop us there and take us off of